Hey everyone, this is Nathan Williams with BlackRain79.com, and I am back here with another hand history review for you guys. So today's hand was sent to me by Rowan, and he has pocket jacks in the big blind. As you can see, this is 1 cent, 2 cent, 6 max. So let's just jump right into the action. So the first player first to act is villain 3 under the gun there. Early position, and he raises it up 3 times the blind. Now, of course, poker is a game played between people, so the most important thing always, after stack size, but everyone has 100 big blinds or more pretty much at this table, the next most important thing is player type, because that is going to tell us, that is going to help us determine how we're going to play the hand, whether it's a loose aggressive player, a tight passive, a recreational player. We're going to play our pocket jacks very differently against all these different player types. So Rowan basically told me that this guy is a tight regular so far. He's only got 45 hands on him, but he's got a 16 VPIP and a 16 preflop raise. Now, if you don't know what those mean, those are HUD stats. There'll be a link in the description below if you want to get these on your table. But basically, these are numbers based on hands that we played with this player, and 16 is quite tight for 6 max. Sorry. And it basically tells us that he's selective, he's a tight player. So when he raises here in early position, I tend to give him some pretty decent credit for a pretty good hand. But with all that being said, we still have pocket jacks here. And I still think that we're going to be ahead of his early position opening range most of the time. So let's see how the rest of the action plays out, though. So we do get a call by villain 4, be middle position there. Cutoff folds, button actually calls as well. Small blind folds, and now it's on Rowan in the big blind. So we're already talking about villain 3 and where I think we stand with pocket jacks. I think we're ahead of his range, so usually I'm going to be leaning towards a 3-bet in this spot. But I've got to say now I'm even more leaning towards a 3-bet. Like, I would 3-bet here like literally 100% of the time because of the other callers in the hand. When you're 3-betting now, it becomes technically known as a squeeze play because there are other players that are callers. We call it a squeeze play instead of a 3-bet. And the reason why a squeeze play is so great here, because like I said, I think we're already 3-betting for value versus villain 3 with our pocket jacks. Pocket jacks is a good hand. It's the 4th best hand in the game, right? But villain 4 and villain 1, usually when there's callers behind, usually these guys are going to have hands like suited connectors, middle pairs, small pairs, Broadway hands like a queen jack or something. Basically, good hands but not great hands that can't stand a 3-bet, right? So with all the dead money out there, the fact that we have a pretty strong hand, this is a no-brainer 3-bet for me. But Rowan disagrees, and he just calls. So that is going to change the complexion of the hand as we go forward, but let's just jump right to the flop. So, pretty good flop. Always nice when you flop the old boat there with your pocket pair. It's obviously not the total nuts, but for all intents and purposes, we have the stone cold nuts here. So Rowan decides to go for a check here, and I'm on board with that decision because as long as our intent here is to get a check raise, because with basically the stone cold nuts at NL2, if you guys have read my book, my first book, Crushing the Microstakes, or if you've read any of the 500 plus blog posts on my website, BlackRain79.com, you know that I have said, I preach, the horse has been beaten to a pulp. At NL2, you never slow play anything. You always get all the money in because they're never folding anything. At NL2, if they have any ace here, any ace, they're calling. Okay, a big raise on the flop. If they've got king 10, there's a good chance they'll call because, oh my god, I got a gut shot straight draw. If they got a jack, well, it's hard for them to have a jack, obviously, because we have 2 of them and there's one on the board. I think you guys get the idea. I never slow play anything. Okay, if I've got quads or better, I will say I do slow play that. But if I've got just, anything good at NL2, I'm pumping up that pot as much as possible. So I do like Rowan's decision here to check with the intention of check raising. Now, it's a good spot to do it because we are first to act, and there's 3 players left behind, so there's a good likelihood that one of them is going to put some money into the pot. So I do like his decision. So the original preflop raiser goes ahead and makes a c-bet of only 1/3 the pot. And, okay, I disagreed with Rowan's decision before the flop. I am going to highly, highly disagree with this decision here. And as I always say when I'm reviewing these hands on YouTube, my intention never, ever is to rip the person apart. I'm not, my intention is always to help. And sometimes people send me hands that I don't think that they played to an optimal level. And I want to say so far that I think that Rowan, that you're making very, very suboptimal decisions so far. That there is, with a hand like this, I much prefer a squeeze pre-flop. But definitely when we flop the nuts like this at NL2, you are absolutely just throwing away enormous amounts of value by not raising in a spot like this. You simply have to build the pot here in order to win a big pot in L2. But let's go forward to the turn here. So, when we've got a boat, there's not really going to be any turn cards that are bad. Really, I can't think of too many. So, eight of spades really doesn't change anything, of course. Rowan goes for the check. It's okay. I mean, if the intention is to check raise, and let me actually mention the reason why I talked about a check raise being good on the flop, and I like a check raise potentially here as well, is because a check raise gets more money in the pot. Hope you guys understand that when you just bet out on the flop, like I think there's 25 cents in the pot on the flop. If we just bet out there, say 15 cents, and you get a bunch of calls, well, you only get the calls of the 15 cents. But if you check and then they bet 15 cents, and then when it comes back to you pump it up to 50 cents. You guys see what I'm talking about here. It's check raise is always the way to get more money in the pot. So often when I flop a huge hand at the lower stakes in particular, and I'm in the blinds, which means I'm going to be first to act, I'm often going to go for the check raise, especially when in a big pot like this where there's lots of people left to act. Good chance one of them bets, and it comes back to me. I can pump it up, and obviously it's the whole point is to win the biggest pot possible in poker. That's the whole point of the game. So on the turn here, again, I'm on board with Rowan's decision if the intention is to check raise. But once again, Rowan just decides to call. And I really have to say at this point that, Rowan, I don't think you're understanding the strength of your hand in this situation. I'm not sure what your intention here is. If it's to slow play, I don't like slow play at NL2 because, as I already discussed previously, these guys will just call anything. So slow playing really is not effective at the lower stakes. You only want to do that against tricky thinking players at much higher stakes. So really we should just be getting value here. And also I should mention the other problem with slow playing is really when these hands just do not come around too often, we need to get as much money in the middle. We need to win a big pot with these hands. I mean, you don't get full houses very often. And as you can see, as it stands right now, Villain still has over 75% of his starting stack in his stack. Like, it's going to be very, very difficult to get the rest of that in the river. We're going to have a huge... We're going to have to hope that he bets again and we make a huge raise and he calls. So this is another huge reason why you want to get that money in the middle earlier in the hand at NL2 in particular, is because the only way to win a big pot is to get more money in earlier. You get in a situation on the river here where, there's still so much stacked behind, and you also want to charge those draws earlier and stuff. But anyways, I don't want to get off on a tangent here. What does Rowan do on the river here? He decides to check again. Again, if the intention is to check raise, I'm on board. But I had a brief look at this hand earlier, and I'm going to have to highly disagree with your decision once again, Rowan, on the river. I don't think this is a good fold. And I know that, and he said in the email to me that he thought this was a good place for a tight fold. I would have to disagree at L2. I think that I know this is a tight regular who raised from early position, and I know the runout's not. I mean, the king, he could have ace king, but he could have ace queen as well, just as easily. He could have ace 10, he could have ace 9. I mean, I think that there are a lot more hands that he could potentially have here that we're ahead of. We need to remember we have a full house here. Actually, it should also, queen 10 technically got there in the river. I don't know if that's in his preflop raising range, but I think you get the point here. We're playing a very, very strong hand way, way too conservatively. I'm not sure if the intention here was to slow play or if we're scared that we don't have the best hand. I think in either case, it's not the correct way to think about this hand. I think that we needed to get the stacks in here. Definitely, I would have preferred to get way more in the middle on the earlier streets. And I think that not getting your full stack in here when you flop a full house at NL2 is just throwing away money. Honestly, at the stakes, I don't, once again, Rowan, and to everyone else watching this, I'm not meaning to sound harsh. Just trying to, when I review these hands on YouTube, my intention is always to help people play better. And I do believe from my years and years and millions of hands of experience at these stakes that the way that this hand was played is definitely not the way to maximize your win rate in these games. So anyways, that's about all I got for this hand. Thanks a lot for sending me the hand, Rowan, and I really hope that this hand helped you in particular and everyone else watching this. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. How would you have played this hand? Do you like this kind of slower line that Rowan took, or would you 3-bet or squeeze pre-flop? Are you raising or on the flop, the turn? Are you betting out? Let me know in the comments below. If you like seeing videos like this, make sure you give the video a like if you liked it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well, because I'm putting out hand history reviews like this pretty much every single week here on YouTube. And lastly, make sure you check out my free ebook below. It's called Massive Profit at the Micros, and that'll give you my complete strategy on how I beat these stakes. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. It's been Nathan Williams with BlackRain79.com.